Ogama, I've been hearing a lot about this term, climate justice. What is that?
Climate justice is recognizing that the negative impacts of climate change don't affect all people equally. It also means transitioning from a fossil fuel-based economy to a more sustainable future. MN350 is one of the groups that's pushing for this transition to protect our futures. You can even get involved too.
That's great, especially since I'm concerned about pipeline projects like Line 3. How can I help MN350?
Just find them on Facebook or visit mn350.org.
Hey, Cudahy to all my friends and relatives in four directions. This is Robert Pilot of Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake. I'm here to ask you for your support. Finding honest Native-centered news is not easy, but with your support, we're able to provide accurate information about Standing Rock, Line 3, treaty violations, and COVID-19 in our Native communities. Please visit Native Roots Radio Network on Patreon and donate if you can. That's Native Roots Radio Network on Patreon. Pinigigi, and thank you for your support.
As we head towards colder weather, it's important to make sure you're up to date on vaccinations and protected from COVID-19. The Native American Community Clinic is now administering the updated Pfizer bivalent booster. The updated bivalent booster helps protect against the original COVID-19 strain and against newer Omicron variants. And it will help restore protection that has decreased since previous vaccinations. People age 5 and older are now recommended to get an updated bivalent booster dose at least 2 months after their last COVID-19 shot. That means the bivalent booster may be given after a person's primary series or after their last booster shot, regardless of what brand you received before. Even if you've already had COVID-19, you should get vaccinated. Right now, at the Native American Community Clinic, you can get COVID-19 vaccines, including updated boosters, at the same visit as other vaccines. However, if you've received a recent monkeypox vaccine, you may need to wait 4 weeks before you can get a COVID-19 vaccine, and you should discuss this with your provider. Schedule your vaccination appointment with the Native American Community Clinic by calling 612-872-8086.
Minnesota has the only original wolf population in the continental United States, and 80% of Minnesotans believe the wolf should be protected. Howling for Wolves is asking Minnesotans to respect our true wildlife manager, the wolf. Their survival is critical to our ecosystems, our communities, and even our economy. As highly intelligent animals with strong social bonds, Minnesota wolves deserve to be protected and admired. Learn more at howlingforwolves.org. Let's live and let howl.
With your AM 950 weather, I'm Patrick Lulia. Cloudy tonight with a low of 2 below, but then temperatures rising to 9 above. Then cloudy Tuesday with a high of 28. Whether you're dining in or dining out, Eat Local Minnesota restaurants and food purveyors will make your next meal one to remember. Visit the full list of Eat Local Minnesota restaurants and food purveyors at eatlocalminnesota.com.
Portions of Native Roots Radio may be pre-recorded.
It's a good day to be indigenous.
Get up, stand up.
They are going to become more brutal.
Couldn't cut, he need cut again.
Because all the hippies were trying to be Indians anyway.
They're going to become more repressive because it's a matter of dollars and their illusionary concepts of power.
Hey, Victor.
We must live in balance with the earth.
And also with recent happenings at Wounded Knee.
I am awake.
Welcome to Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake, and I'm your host, Wakanja Hade. Hey, Cudahy to all my friends and relatives in four directions. You are listening to Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake, and I'm your host, Wakanja Hade, Robert Pilot. Wakanja Hade means distant thunder in the the Ho-Chunk language. We talk about Native issues and events, and we really appreciate all our allies that listen in to what we have to say, because without you, we wouldn't be here, right, Ogama?
Absolutely, everybody. Welcome back from the holiday. And just to let you know, this portion of the show is brought to you by MN350, a grassroots organization fighting for climate justice.
Awesome. Hey, we talk about news and events here, and Ogama leads off with the news, but we have like it's a special day and not a good day. But it's a day that we recognize as Native Americans, and we'll be talking a lot about that today in this, I don't know, Ogma, special edition of Native Roots Radio, I guess, the 38+2.
Yeah, I would say it could be a special edition kind of episode, and again, it's not a happy day for all of us who are Native and who know what happened on this day. Um, and yeah, we're gonna get into that. Actually, I'm gonna get into that right now with a little bit of history of it, um, compared to my regular news today, Robert, if that's okay with you.
Yeah, you sound a little distant today.
Yeah,
Oh,
we're making do with what we can with technology today. So apparently, my technology is still on holiday. I'm This is the best I got.
yeah.
So if you think you can ride through it with me, we'll do it.
Let's do it. And then we can do it all the way through like smoke signals too. So this is good. Go ahead
Right,
with do it.
exactly. So on this day, on December 26th in 1862, was the largest single day mass execution in the United States. It was 38 Dakota warriors who died on this day as sentenced by then President Lincoln, and in related to the U.S. Dakota War at the time. So a big part of what happens with the history of this is that the Dakota 38 plus 2 Memorial Ride occurs, and it starts December 10th and it goes until the day after Christmas. And it is a group of Indigenous elders, adults, and youth that ride horseback from the Lower Brule Sioux tribe in South Dakota all the way to Mankato, Minnesota. So I just want to remind everybody that they did this 330-mile trek again today. It's called the Dakota 38 plus 2 Memorial Ride, and it's to commemorate those Dakota warriors who were hanged in Mankato. They did that ride through, I believe, what we could call two of the biggest snowstorms in the Midwest and in U.S. history in recent years. Massive amounts of snow, massive temperatures below zero. We're talking 20, 30, 40 below in some places, as well as the large amount of snowfall. They still made this trek for the Dakota 38 plus 2. And when we say plus 2, we also want to remind people that the plus 2 is to signify 2 additional Dakota who were captured and hanged later as part of the aftermath of the U.S. Dakota War of 1862. And also during the war and after the war, during the winter in 1863, Dakota people were held captive in Fort Thompson, where many Dakota women and children had died of cold and hunger. And it was a concentration camp for Native people. The Dakota 38 plus 2 Memorial Ride was started in 2005, following a dream from a Lakota spiritual elder named Jim Miller of a spiritual journey by horse and returning home to Minnesota for the Dakota people. And the trek has gone on every year since Miller's dream to help reconcile the history of the massacre of the Dakota people. And the 2022 ride was the final ride under his leadership. And I do believe that he has passed that off to a younger person. Robert, were you there today when that happened?
I was there, but it was the running part was passed off to a younger person where they run the runners that run from Fort Snelling to Mankato, which is over 100 miles, and they did that from last night with prayer, and they left at roughly around 11:30 from Fort Snelling, which is basically here in Bloomington, St. Paulish, by the airport, and run there. But that was handed over. But I do believe you are correct in your assumption. I don't think anything's come out official yet about who's going to take the ride over. But I did see Winona LaDuke on a horse, and who knows, right?
Yeah, it sounds like Honor the Earth was deeply involved this year, as they are each year. And it's really good to see that we have our relatives like Winona who join us on our show from time to time, who get out and do those types of rides and take that time to be out there and um, be in solidarity and in prayer. These are greatly, deeply spiritual rides and events that people do to commemorate our lost relatives. Um, and I'm sure Mary Kunesh will talk about this as well, but following the U.S. Dakota War, the Dakota people were actually exiled from the state of Minnesota, as it was determined. And that means that they were exiled and sent to camps in Lower Brule and South Dakota, as well as other reservations in the Dakotas. So those people are not, you know, the Dakota people and the land of Minnesota are intrinsically tied, and since time immemorial, Dakota people have cared for this land. In fact, the name Minneapolis starts from Minnie, which I do believe, which means water in Dakota, and Minneapolis and its area had waterfalls, and it was taken from the Dakota language, as was much of the places that have been named here in Minnesota. So, as we continue to talk about this and the history of this, we know that it has ongoing implications for Dakota people here in Minnesota, right, Robert?
Exactly. And also, Minnesota is a Dakota word too. And that brings me to the show too, Ogama. We're going to have our elder, Jerry Dearly, which every year reads off the names of all the hung warriors in the fourth segment. And he will explain a little bit of what you're talking about too, about where Lakota and come from. And just a FYI too, I want to throw out too, Ogama, is that the Ho Chunk people were here in southern Minnesota, and they were removed shortly after this. And to my understanding, they didn't have anything to do with the uprising that entailed this mass, the largest mass hanging in U.S. history.
Right. As another FYI too, Robert, I think what always strikes me too when we talk about U.S. Dakota War history is that 38 plus 2 could have been 303. Initially, in the weeks that followed after September 1862, there were 392 prisoners that were tried. 303 were sentenced to death. And President Lincoln reviewed the trial transcripts of all 303 men and later came down to 39 names. And we had 38 plus 2 more that were executed. And they do believe that there were 2 that were executed mistakenly, that had either been acquitted or had accidentally stepped forward when somebody else's name was called in all of the chaos. So, I mean, I just can't. I can't even imagine that, Robert. We'll have more to say about that when we come back, right?
Yeah, we're going to have State Senator Mary Kunesh stop in and talk about her experience today and who is all down there in Mankato. And also she has a couple little updates too about license plates here in Minnesota. So we'll be right back. This is Native Roots Radio Presents. I'm Awake. See you in a minute.
Hey, Ogama, I've been hearing a lot about this term, climate justice. What is that?
Climate justice is recognizing that the negative impacts of climate change don't affect all people equally. It also means transitioning from a fossil fuel-based economy to a more sustainable future. MN 350 is one of the groups that's pushing for this transition to protect our futures. You can even get involved too.
That's great, especially since I'm concerned about pipeline projects like Line 3. How can I help MN 350?
Just find them on Facebook or visit mn350.org.
Health insurance that fits my budget? I'm covered. I needed health coverage I could count on and afford. MNsure helped me find a plan that works for me, and they helped me save money. Did you know that most Minnesotans qualify for savings through MNsure? And they have free experts who can help you sign up for coverage. Go to mnsure.org today and get started and get covered. That's mnsure.org. mnsure.org.
I heard sex trafficking happens a lot in Indian country. What is that?
Here are some of the real reasons why sex trafficking happens in Indian country. Unequal gender roles that were forced on us by colonization. Communities don't have enough resources. Silence around domestic and sexual violence. Lack of attention and justice for missing and murdered Indigenous people. There's a lot of behavior that keeps our communities out of balance. These are just a few true reasons why Native communities are targeted by traffickers. When these acts of violence happen in our communities, it opens us all up for exploitation.
Sponsored by the Minnesota Indian Women's Sexual Assault Coalition.
Seward Co-op is now offering convenient self-serve and prepackaged hot options and salad bars at both the Franklin and Friendship stores. Breakfast items available daily until 11 a.m. and brunch served all day every Sunday. Their weekly lunch and dinner menus highlight cuisines from around the world. They offer vegan, vegetarian, and gluten-free options daily. 95% of the ingredients used are organic from small-scale, local community food producers whenever possible. More at seward.coop.
Hi, this is Representative Sharice Davids from Kansas. I'm Ho Chunk, and you're listening to Native Roots Radio.
And we're back to Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake, and this is Robert Pilot.
Hey, this portion of the show is brought to you by the Minnesota Indian Women's Sexual Assault Coalition.
Hey, we're here with State Senator Mary Kunesh, and we just ran into each other down in Mankato, and what a ceremony. You were there for the horses and also the great talks and speaks, and you spoke yourself, and the governor and lieutenant governor were there. That's act as if you're a reporter right now, State Senator, and tell us what happened today. Welcome.
Well, good evening, everyone. State Senator here, State Senator Mary Kunesh here. It is one of my favorite days of the year, the day after Christmas, when many of us will travel down to Mankato, Minnesota, the site of the 38+2 hanging that occurred 160 years ago. And it's the culmination of a violent time in the Minnesota history that often is portrayed as a time when those savages, riled up and, for no reason massacred settlers and caused all kinds of trouble. But the fact of the matter is it was in reaction to, of course, treaties that stole the lands from our Dakota people here, as well as the federal government refusing to allocate and provide the resources that our tribes were promised through these treaties. So making that trip down to Mankato, it has become a regular December 26th adventure for me. And Robert, I know you're generally there as well. We get there early enough in the day, probably 9 a.m. in the morning, down to Memory Park. I forget what the name of the park is. And down there, we have an encampment of horses that have traveled from the Dakotas for days and days and days to that spot. And we have a small ceremony where the horses are, and the riders are there, and there's drums, there's prayers, we're smudging, we're gathering around a fire, and then those horses start circling us around the fire. And it is probably one of the most incredible emotional moments to see those riders with those horses just circling us. And then they disperse and ride into downtown Mankato to Remembrance Park, the site where this hanging took place. And again, hundreds of people are there to welcome the riders. But at the same time, we're waiting for runners running from St. Paul, the capital of Minnesota, down to Mankato. And the significance of that is that after these men were hung, the government gathered all these women and children and elderly people, or anybody who was left, and marched them about 150 miles in cold weather, winter weather, with very little bit of supplies or warm clothes. Along the way, when they went through towns and cities, they were heckled and abused, often killed. It was our own trail of tears to the state capitol, where they pretty much incarcerated them in a concentration camp at Fort Snelling in St. Paul. So there's two things happening. There's the horses coming from the Dakotas. There's the runners that are coming from St. Paul, converging in Mankato, and acknowledging the lives, those 38+2 men that were hung in retribution to the unrest and the demand for the resources that were promised to them. It's an incredible day. It's freezing as usual, but you know what? We come and we share our feelings and our thoughts and remember all of these people, and it is truly a magnificent day.
Yeah, the governor spoke, and I was really impressed in what he had to say. Maybe we'll get it on recording and play it this week sometime. And also, there was a letter written from Leonard Peltier that I have here that we'll probably read this week too. So there was a lot of moving things and moving in many ways, whether it was a horse or emotionally.
Mhm. Yeah, literally and figuratively. You're right. There was a lot of emotion there, and what is so interesting is uh, the diversity of the people that come. It's not all Native folks. There's a lot of non-Native folks that are there, but we have academia. We have those that have tragic lived experiences. So often, I run into a handful of mostly women who will want to share their experiences having been victims of violence or have a loved one who was murdered. I am really fortunate to have passed the Missing and Murdered Indigenous Women's Task Force here in Minnesota, and then create a permanent office to continue the work to address our missing and murdered relatives. And it never fails that one or more people come up to me while I'm there to tell me their stories. And those are the things that really continue to motivate me to do the work that I do at our Minnesota State Capitol.
Yeah, and speaking of which, we're going to have a celebration coming soon where our native candidates, including yourself, are going to be sworn in, and I plan on, and Wendy plan on to come on that Tuesday. It's the 3rd of January, and so throw that out to all our relatives out there that's happening at the Minnesota State Capitol.
Yeah, I would love to invite anyone who's able to join us on January 3rd at 11:15 in the rotunda of our state capitol. We will have the first ever welcoming ceremony for the Indigenous legislators. There will be drumming. There we will have a round dance, and then I believe a representative of each of the tribes will join the Minnesota House while they have their ceremony, their inaugural ceremony, and we will continue to recognize those our Native leaders here in Minnesota, and how important it is to have those compacts and those collaborations with our state government and with our sovereign nations.
Right, government to government, and we deal with that as my other job all the time, including here in Minnesota. So I'm excited to go there and be a little rabble rouser there too, Mary.
Well, we welcome you, Robert.
So it was great. Got to meet a couple new members of your family too. We had broke some bread afterwards. I appreciate the invite. That was really awesome. Say, we got 3 minutes here in this segment. I'm wondering if we'll get back to the 38 plus 2, but why don't we talk a little bit about what you did about a week ago up in
Oh,
the north?
sure. Yes, I was invited to join for a ceremony up in Carlton, Minnesota, and it was to recognize 2 of our northern Minnesota tribes issued their own tribal license plate that recognized the historic trauma of our missing and murdered relatives. So the Fond du Lac Band of Lake Superior, Chippewa, and the Boys Fort Band of Chippewa created license plate that have the MMIR on there, the acronym for Missing and Murdered Indigenous Relatives. And these are going to be issued to tribal members. And I'm really excited about that because last year I introduced legislation to create a specialty license plate for anyone in Minnesota to sport on their vehicle. And unfortunately, we didn't finish out our session last year very productively. So I'll be bringing that legislation back. But we did have bipartisan support last year in a divided government, and so I'm pretty confident that this is the year that we will have that specialty plate done.
Yeah, that's just exciting news. I think, inch by inch, we're really, we are in a sense getting land back, and that's exciting, as a metaphor. Not only are we getting land back, but just these small things that are huge to us, whether it's your office that you built and worked on as a representative and then as a senator, the MMIW, MMIR. And then also the license plate to give us a shout out, because also when you pay extra for those plates, it goes directly to your organization or the state organization, correct?
Yeah, so these specialty plates, some of the funding goes toward the specialty issue. And so I have the legislation where it is going to go directly to the Office of the Missing and Murdered Indigenous Relatives, and it will help to ensure that office stays viable and is able to do the work that they've been charged with. And so, and it educates our state. People want to know about it. They want to see these things. And one of the responsibilities of the task force was also to educate the public around this issue.
And that's what we're doing right now. Hey, we're going to take a quick short break and come back with State Senator Mary Kunesh of the great state of Minnesota and talk a little bit more about the 38+2 today's, I don't want to say celebration, but talk about today. So we'll be right back after this short break. Stay with us.
Minnesota has the only original wolf population in the continental United States, and 80% of Minnesotans believe the wolf should be protected. Howling for Wolves is asking Minnesotans to respect our true wildlife manager, the wolf. Their survival is critical to our ecosystems, our communities, and even our economy. As highly intelligent animals with strong social bonds, Minnesota wolves deserve to be protected and admired. Learn more at howlingforwolves.org. Let's live and let howl.
J&S Bean Factory is a native-owned, community-supported, cozy, artsy coffee shop which offers roasted on-site beans, live music, and baked goods. Relax in the beautiful outside patio. City Pages writes, voted top 10 coffee shops. Tucked into a quiet corner of St. Paul's Highland Park neighborhood, this coffee shop roasts beans on-site from the best coffee-growing countries in the world. Located at 1518 Randolph Avenue, St. Paul. The good stuff.
Hello, it's Randy Rhodes, Team Randy. Glad to be a part of the lineup of Progressive Voices on AM 950. Tune in, join us weeknights at 10.
Do yourself a favor and check out the amazing cuisine of eatlocalminnesota.com. More than just a website, eatlocalminnesota.com provides you with the best local and independently owned restaurants in the Twin Cities. Specializing in Szechuan and Peking cuisine, the Great Wall Chinese restaurant has been a local favorite since 1981. They offer one of the most extensive menus in the Twin Cities. Favorites include the sesame chicken, imperial beef, and Peking duck. The Great Wall restaurant is located off 45th and France, with takeout available too. More at greatwallrestaurant.us. The next time you're out in South Minneapolis, make Nightingale off 26th and Lyndale your go-to dining option. It's a comfortable neighborhood restaurant that features a delicious menu of American classics, plus a wide drink and cocktail selection. Nightingale has dining room and bar seating available, plus takeout and delivery. Current hours are 5 p.m. to 1 a.m. daily with the full menu until midnight. More at nightingalempls.com.
Hi, this is Laura. Listen to Food Freedom Radio every Saturday at 8 a.m. or anytime via podcast. Our individual health is connected to the health of each other and connected to the health of the earth. We know the problems with the dominant food system: climate change, deadening soils, nitrates in the water, factory farming, injustice, concentration of wealth. How do we both as individuals and as a community step up and support a living food system which honors the earth? Tune to Food Freedom Radio every Saturday at 8 a.m. and remember to support your independent farmers.
Would you let animals pick your insurance? Do you really need to experience mayhem to get the best rates? Or how about a celebrity quarterback or fake university saving you money? There's a lot of marketing stunts when it comes to insurance, but what you really need is someone looking out for you. Call Array Insurance, and they will work hard to find you the best insurance coverage and rates. So avoid gimmicks and call Cheryl at Array, 763-504-3067 or arrayinsurance.com. Array Insurance, working hard for you.
Think your company's safe? Your staff is working from home, right? As I speak, cyber criminals are mounting attacks across the country. Remember, when we're weakest, cyber criminals attack. Hi, Mark Sommerfeld from Rymark. The Rymark team is guiding our clients through these difficult times. In fact, demand has been so high, we created an easy-to-follow guide. It's yours free. Download our 5 steps to securely work from home now at rymarkit.com or call 651-328-8900 for a no-cost how-to discussion.
With your AM 950 weather, I'm Patrick. Cloudy tonight with a low of 2 below, but then temperatures rising to 9 above. Then cloudy Tuesday with a high of 28.
Get the appliances you've been dreaming of for less at Warner Stellian's year-end clearance. Shop closeouts, scratch and dent, and floor models. Plus, buy more to save more. Take 10% off 2 red tags and 15% off 3 at Warner Stellian's year-end clearance.
Welcome back to Native Roots Radio Presents I'm Awake, and this is Robert Pilot.
Hey everyone, just wanted to let you know that if you're looking for health insurance and you don't know where to start, MNsure has free experts that will help walk you through your options and find a plan that can save you money. Go to mnsure.org to get free help.
Yes, thank you, Ogama. We're here with State Senator Mary Kunesh, who's normally on Friday, but we're giving her a double duty this week. We missed her last week, and just to talk a little bit more, Wendy always reminds me to do this, and why don't we talk about something that you want to talk about for this next segment, and then what we're going to have next in the last part of the show is we're going to have a special rebroadcast of what we do every year, Leshki, which means uncle, and Dakota. Jerry Dearly reads the names of the 38 plus 2 and talks a little bit about Minnesota history. So, State Senator, let's talk about what you'd like to talk about here.
Well, gosh, there's so much to talk about. But I think what's really important, because across the country, legislators will be reconvening at their state capitals, unless you are one of those states that meet every 2 years instead of annually. But I just want to talk a little bit about your responsibility as a constituent to help your legislator, whether it's your state senator or state representative or whatever you call your local state government assembly person, whatever it is, your responsibility to help us understand the issues within our communities and across our state. I was a teacher for 25 years, so I'm passionate about education. I grew up in rural Minnesota, so I'm passionate about rural development, about the environment, clean water. As a native descent of the Dakota Standing Rock folks, I'm especially passionate about our tribes. But everybody has something that they are especially passionate about, or maybe they have a specialty, whether it's insurance or nursing or whatever it is. Think about what you feel is important and where we can make improvements in our own state legislatures, and then reach out and get to know who your elected officials are. From your school board to your city council to any elected official in your area, get to know these people and see what makes them tick. And if you find areas that you think you can help make improvements, not just for yourself, but for your communities. Please take that responsibility to going and meeting with that person, asking them to meet you for a cup of coffee, make an appointment to see them at their office, their elected official's office. But take that responsibility of being an active participant in the decision making of our states. It's really so important. And I know I personally really do appreciate that. I learned so much from other folks, and oftentimes, well, almost 100% of the time when there are issues that a constituent brings to me, I take it seriously and have actually made good changes in our state legislature based on either their experience or their knowledge in an area. And so it's just so important that we are all taking that role of educating each other and advocating for each other.
Yeah, absolutely. We're all in this together, and I think that's one of the things that really separates the parties. And we're really glad that Minnesota's turned into the trifecta. And we're really prayerful about the other places too across the United States, where Michigan was a big surprise at they turned totally blue. But we're just grateful here in Minnesota. And I just have to back up a second too, State Senator, and the governor spoke today down in Mankato, and I believe he apologized to our native people, especially the Lakota Dakota down there. And it was very subtle and very interesting. I was pretty moved by his speech.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, acknowledging the mistakes that we have made in the past. Sometimes we can't always fix them, or it's not going to change, of course, what happened back 160 years ago. But it allows us to begin to move forward and to recognize, groups or individual pain, and to be contrite and ask for forgiveness. But then also, it's a good starting point for positive change. Instead of ignoring it and saying, well, that happened long ago, we don't need to worry about that, I don't know why you keep bringing that up. It allows us to open up those conversations around education. Now we can, we'll start talking about this in our schools. We'll start, creating new curriculum that has the truth of the matter, that has the real history. It acknowledges the pain and the grief that families, there are family members of those Dakota 38+2 there who still feel the loss and the pain of that. And we know, it can very easily pass generation to generation. So it's an investment in our future for sure.
Well, and what's interesting too, Mary, is that I talked to the governor a little bit after his speech, and what struck me was that I don't think we've had any governor ever really do that. I can't think of anyone. I might be wrong,
Well,
but
I
go ahead.
think that I think it was Governor Dayton who acknowledged it and
Yep.
and recognized the historic trauma that happened. So it certainly has been a progression. It's only been in the last decade, let's say, that this has happened, and that is a positive change. And looking forward, I'm hoping that we can make those changes that need to be done.
Wow, yeah, how could I forget, Governor Dayton? What a great heart he had, and absolutely, a great reminder, that this happens, and things happen so fast. I mean, I remember Obama was, against gay marriage, things like that, so how quickly, the world turns in a good way. So he's for it now for sure, but, at the time, it wasn't politically, um, you know, good for you to be that. So to change in a good way like this, and to hear our present governor, who's got 4 more years to help work government to government, and also with the state and the Senate and the House. It's going to be an exciting next 4 years.
It absolutely will be. And as the chair of Education Finance in the Minnesota Senate, I can
Yeah.
hardly wait to make really good investments in our schools and our students, our teachers. It's going to be pretty terrific.
Yeah, well, I applaud you too as a former high school teacher. I'm excited, and I know you got your head on straight, and you've had the experience the last 25 some years of education. So it's exciting, and we're talking about funding. We're talking about things that only can help our people, but all people.
Absolutely. And Minnesota has quite a historic surplus to work with.
Yeah.
And so, I know it's the governor's priority. I know it's the Minnesota House's priority and the Senate priority to work towards fully funding our educational system that has been starved and borrowed from and squashed for way too long. And so I think we will see some positive change over the next 4 years.
Yeah, and with a amount of money like that, and always ringing true this time of year when it's so cold about our homeless. I know the Blue Party will be on top of that too, and I'm excited to see what's going on with that.
Absolutely.
So, State Senator, thanks for coming in on Monday. I know you got a lot of prep to do before the opening of the session, which is coming up. So I really, really appreciate you stopping in and talking about your thoughts about today, the 38-2, and also what's coming up and the great work that you've done. And we're so blessed to have you on the show. Pini Gigi, thanks for being on.
Wopila Tonka. Thank you.
Right on. That was State Senator Mary Kunesh, and we'll be right back with Jerry Dearly and a little history on Minnesota and the 38+2. Stay with us.
Hey, Olgama, I've been hearing a lot about this term, climate justice. What is that?
Climate justice is recognizing that the negative impacts of climate change don't affect all people equally. It also means transitioning from a fossil fuel-based economy to a more sustainable future. MN350 is one of the groups that's pushing for this transition to protect our futures. You can even get involved too.
That's great, especially since I'm concerned about pipeline projects like Line 3. How can I help MN350?
Just find them on Facebook or visit mn350.org.
Health insurance that fits my budget? I'm covered. I needed health coverage I could count on and afford. MNsure helped me find a plan that works for me, and they helped me save money. Did you know that most Minnesotans qualify for savings through MNsure? And they have free experts who can help you sign up for coverage. Go to mnsure.org today and get started and get covered. That's mnsure.org. mnsure.org.
Hey, Wendy, what are we doing for dinner after the show?
How about we go to J. Selby's on 169 Victoria Street in St. Paul? They have a delicious plant-based menu that's compassionate and environmentally sustainable.
I'm getting their spot-on vegan Big Mac, the dirty secret.
You can pick up and they deliver within a 5-mile radius, or you can call them at 651-222-3263 or visit jselbys.com.
Well, you sold me, Wen. Let's go order at J. Selby's tonight.
I'm hungry.
Thanks to everyone who supported AM 950 for the last 3 years. Good news, the AM 950 2023 calendar is ready to go, featuring photos I took around Minnesota and important progressive dates. If you sign up to become a member with a one-time $50 membership or recurring monthly membership of $10, you'll receive a 2023 AM 950 calendar as a thank you gift. Go to am950radio.com to become a member and receive a calendar. That's am950radio.com. Thank you so much for supporting AM 950, the progressive voice of Minnesota.
We went to all the powwows when we were young. At that time, children could not dance. Only people over 50 years of age could dance. Most people do not know this, that the government forbid children to dance Indian. And that was so they could wipe out the culture of the young people, and then finally the new generation would never know what happened.
I'm a member of the American Indian movement, and I'm from the indigenous nations of the Western Hemisphere.
We American Indians, we can be anything we want to be, except American Indians.
You were here long before any of us were here.
Bonjour, everybody. My name is Peggy Flanagan. I'm from the White Earth Nation, and my family's the Wolf Clan.
There was trouble in Custer, South Dakota yesterday.
That the American Indian movement is a very proud, continuing part of American Indian society. And thank you.
But what I tell you is that we are not backing down. We're here, we'll stand here because we have been here for 10,000 years. We're the home team, and we're not going anywhere. We're rich.
Greetings, friends and relatives in four directions. We are proud and happy to have Elder Jerry Deerling speak on behalf of Native Roots Radio. I'm awake.
Ampetu Washte. Today we begin a part of sharing with you, the people of Mini Oshota, which is Mini is water, Oshota is misty, cloudy, or foggy, which is a state of Minnesota, which is a Dakota or a Sioux word called Minnesota, Mini Oshota. So today I'm asked to do what it is I'm going to be doing on behalf of the pronunciation of the 38 Dakota, which I was, once again, they brought me some tobacco and a chanupa or a pipe to accompany the run, which is December 25th, evening 2018, and leaving at 11:30 or 12, running all night with those runners, and arriving in Mankato around 10 o'clock or a little after or before, somewhere around there, at the Land of Memories Park on the west side of Mankato, which incidentally is Mankato, which is Blue Earth. And that's where we had the culminating ceremony, where at that time, very important, some of you that follow the media, you may have read something about Shunka Ska. Shunka is dog, Ska is white dog. 150 years, this chanupa, this pipe, was taken care of by someone, or somebody bought it, and finally it was returned back to the Prairie Island Dakota community. So they have two young people from the community that is taking care of this pipe that's 150 years old, that belonged to one of the leaders at that time that were probably caught and killed in his own abide. The one thing they took was his pipe. This was now today's generation, 21st century, given back to the Prairie Island Dakota community. So that was also brought at the culminating final 2018 pipe ceremony, with all the prayers needed and people standing in around a fire to remember the 38 Dakota, which I will share with you at this time. The names, I will share the Dakota names. So I will share these Dakota names in a very proud, respectful way for the history of those 38 Dakota. Dakota Indians hung at Mankato. This is Friday, December 26, 1862. Dakota number 1, Tipi Godoniche. Tipi Godoniche. The second one, number 2, Wayata Tua. Wayata Tua. 3, Tajusha. Tajusha. 4, Hihangshu Khoyag Money. He Hanshu Koyag Money. 5. Maza Bomidu. Maza Bomidu. 6. Wahba or Wapha Duda. Wapha Duda. 7. Wahena. Wahena. 8. Sana Money. Sana Money. 9. Khda Ianke. Khda Ianke. 10. Doa Niye. Doa Niye. 11. Shunka Ska. Shunka Ska. 12. Hepran. Hepran. 13. Trunka Lehanta Money. Trunka Lehanta Money. 14. Ite Duta. Ite Duta. 15. Ambadacha. Ambadacha. 16. Hepidan. Hepidan. 17. Mahbia. Te Nanji. Mahbia. Te Nanji. 18. French mixed blood. Henry Milord. Henry Milord. 19. Chaske Don. Chaske Don. 20. French mixed blood. Baptiste Campbell. Baptiste Campbell. 21. Trate Gara. Trate Gara. 22. He Pinkba. He Pinkba. 23. French mixed blood. Hippolyte Og. Hippolyte Og or Auger. 24. Nampe Shuha. Nampe Shuha. 25. Wakhan Tranka. Wakhan Tranka. 26. Trunka Khoya Inaji. Trunka Khoyag Inaji. 27. Makha Te Nanji. Makha Te Nanji. 28. Praji Kuta Mani. Praji Kuta Mani. 29. Trate Gododin. Trate Gododin. 30. Washijuna. Washijuna. 31. Aichara. Aichara. 32. Hotra Igu. Hotra Igu. 33. Chetan Hunka. Chetan Hunka. 34. Khdahi Bada. Khdahi Bada. 35. Shankagdo. Shankagdo. 36. Oyate Truan. Oyate Truan. 37. Mehiwe Miet. Mehiwe Miet. 38. Wakiana. Wakiana. Oyalana. Wikchamana Yamani. Som Shakadocha. Otakuye Kehan. December 26, 1862, Hehan. We chalked it pedo. These 38 Dakota were killed at that fateful day on December 26, 1862.
Hi, I'm Kirk Duckwall with the Twin Cities Real Estate Show here on AM 950.